Hello there, Commonwealth from here. Tears of the Kingdom is a game filled with Zonai secrets and half answers to many questions that Breath of the Wild brought up. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell as we dive deep to clear up what happened to the locations and structures of the Zonai and bring up at the very least 7 Zonai secrets. To get to the depths of these secrets, we begin with none other than the difference between the original distant past stonework hidden underneath the covered up layer of the Zonai ruins in Faron, specifically at Tobios Hollow, the entrance to the construct factory. An owl statue, which simply wasn't visible in Breath of the Wild, and below it, a clear contrast between original inner and later outer coating. So what is special about this place? The fact that here we have evidence that the original Zonai stonework was covered up, and it couldn't be more cryptic, as it is located in a place where you're most likely to just go to the construct factory, and the only thing hinting towards it is this little uncovered pillar. The outer coating depicting dragons, but the inner Zonai text. Which begs the question, who covered it up and why? We know that Raru and Minoru were the last Zonai on the surface, not counting the potential draconified former Zonai, so Dinral, Naedra and Farosh. Yes, it is possible that Din, Nehru and Furor were Zonai figures in this story long prior to the founding of the Kingdom of Hyrule, and all three ended their presence here by swallowing secret Zonai stones to achieve immortality. Which begs the question, was this trio among the first Zonai who descended from the heavens to the surface? And as such, instead of 7 secret stones, there were 10, as the act of draconification was forbidden after the Zonai realized that Din, Nehru and Furor had become immortal, but were also no longer themselves. Hence, by the time the mural was carved, 7 were the only known number of stones. And also let's keep in mind that the mural that depicts the 7 stones first came into existence after the imprisoning war, aka it came after the Zonai, and was made by the ancient Hylians. Depictions that greatly contrast the much older Zonai structures, repeating the same distinct, clean, minimalistic stone design. One that continued to exist until after King Raru's sacrifice to hold Ganondorf in the depths, Minoru's spirit entry into the Purapad, and Zelda's draconification. And how do we know this? The Shrines of Light and the way they were designed, exactly the same as all prior Zonai architecture. So traditional, which we know dated all the way to the final generation of Raru and Minoru. With them, the pure-blooded Zonai went extinct from the surface, but their structures remained. Which begs the question, what happened to them? To answer this question, we need to ask a different question about fallen civilizations. Who takes care of the legacy and structures? In the case of Hyrule, the remaining 4 sages as seen in Zelda's draconification scene. But moreover, the unnamed child or children of King Raru and Queen Sonia. After all, Princess Zelda is a bloodline relative of Sonia, meaning that she must have had children, and they became the next in line of the soon-to-be Hylian royal family. And as a warning to not disturb their sacrifice, they created a mural depicting the imprisoning war and Princess Zelda's sacrifice to heal the Master Sword with sacred power. Above this location, the second Hyrule castle was built to keep the ceiling point where the first king held Ganondorf safe. A secret and closed-off section of the castle as mentioned in the beginning of the game by Zelda. Seeing it from this perspective, you could consider the staircase and path to the underground chambers the mausoleum of Raru, a forbidden one with a clear warning carved by the succeeding Hylians. As a result, the royal family and the Hylians commemorated the imprisoning war in a different location. Further north, Typhloor Ruins. That is right, the presumed northern stronghold or settlement of the Zonai wasn't a stronghold or of Zonai origin at all, but a monument built by the Hylians to honor the sages. Which brings us back to the outer layer covering the inner Zonai stone in the Zonai ruins and Tobios Hollow in Faron. As we see the same key detail, the simplified dragon heads and dragon patterns in both locations. The difference being that in Typhloor, the outer layer doesn't hide a layer beneath. It is the original structure built by ancient Hylians after King Raru froze in place. But why cover up the ones in Faron with simplified dragon motifs and place them above the ones built by the Zonai themselves? Preservation. Or in other words, make sure that they survive until the day they would guide Link to the even more protected by Thunderclouds, Thunderhead, and Dragonhead, both leading to the Construct Factory and from there to the Spirit Temple, a part of Zelda's and Mineru's plan before they sacrificed their original selves. The original Zonai stonework simply had to be covered in order to be preserved in Hyrule's and especially Northern Faron's wet climate, which wouldn't allow the original Zonai structures to survive. An act of conservation, or to allow parts of it to be unearthed in the distant future with Ganondorf's awakening, the upheaval, and Link's return to the surface with the Purapat. And this makes sense, as what our own history shows is that the best preserved complex ancient artifacts are not exposed to the elements, and with it, people, but hidden and protected secrets, most often on the ground. Think Rome's Pompeii and how its colors survive to this day, avoiding Rome's fate. But what about the Temple of Time and the other Sky Islands? Well, that is the next part of Zelda's and Mineru's plan to the sages. When they would be gone, they had to ensure that key Zonai locations and parts of the land they once ruled was secured from the Demon King and his minions and ready for Link in the sky. The source of this groundbreaking scheme are the ancient Hylian tablets, written by the royal Hylian Chamberlain of King Rauru and Queen Sonia. She in her third final and second to final entry detailed the following as interpreted by Wordsworth in Kakariko Village. Was an additional order to Mineru to develop a levitation mechanism to lift the entries detailed by the royal Chamberlain, but furthermore the Temple of Time and top parts of the lands of Rauru and Sonia into the sky, along with a significant number of the Shrines of Light they built together. These became the Sky Islands that were hidden behind the Dragon Barrier until the day of the upheaval and Link's arrival on what became Great Sky Island in the distant future. The female Chamberlain bore witness to this historic occasion and later emptiness as all she cared for from the founding generation was gone. Queen Sonia, King Rauru, his sister Mineru, and finally Princess Zelda. But not only they, as along with the Temple of Time and the land surrounding it, a number of different surface structures were ripped out from its surface roots for good. This goes for the top layer of the Zonai labyrinths, the skydiving ceremony islands of young Zonai coming of age, Zonite armor locations, and naturally the previously mentioned Shrines of Light. Following the levitation and sealing of the land behind the Sky Dragon Barrier, only 4 sages witnessing the imprisoning war remained. But with their passing and mission with their secret stones to reach out to their successors who would stand by Link's side against the Demon King, it was up to the Hylians to take care of what was left of the Zonai structures. As we have previously concluded, the surface Zonai locations were covered to preserve them and this way commemorate the extinct on the surface tribe. However, with the passing of time, this had a different consequence. The Zonai tribe being forgotten and distorted into Faron barbarians. That, despite being the complete opposite. Something that worked for the Hylian royal family, as no one dared to question the origin of the crown after the Zonai were wiped out of the history of the land. Princess Zelda, upon ending up in the distant past with the last Zonai, knew that the Zonai would be forgotten and that the Hylians would go to great lengths to cover up their existence. That went for the sealing point and building the seat of power and capital around it, while transforming the original capital of the elevated Great Plateau into Hyrule's main religious spot. It went to the length that Zelda had to rediscover the true Zonai thread herself. It was also this later development that was the reason as to why Zelda decided that the main structures of the Zonai had to be in the sky, to preserve them from the Hylians, and secondly, for Link to awaken in a safe place from monsters. A place where Zelda, through her vow to Link, to grant her hero the ability to recall. All pieces required for a plan to work and turning the time loop between them into a closed circle. This conclusion is backed by the explanation found from the Ranger construct on the top of the Great Sky Island's Temple of Time, which after completing the Waterfall Levitation Challenge, details that Great Sky Island was until the tragic end of King Rauru's reign on the surface. The levitating Sky Islands, and most of all Great Sky Island, were sent up to keep it safe from the Demon King and his minions, and especially to await the day Link would arrive right here. Zelda knew this, as Link had made his way here after the Master Sword had been recalled to the past, and she knew that the Temple of Time, in her own time, didn't exist and had to be located in the sky. And here's the thing that went over most people's heads. namely the secret nature of recall. It isn't a time traveling tool, as it only goes one way, back to the past, origin point, not the future. Hence why Zelda and the Master Sword were stuck after ending up in the distant past. Back to their origin point, as they had already been there before, as history had already been literally carved in stone. All through the kanji of time, a trip back in time with no return to the future outside of the natural flow of time, leaving Zelda no other option to deliver the Master Sword and reach Link outside the forbidden act of draconification. In other words, the Sky Islands are a consequence of Zelda's recall from the distant future, which again was set in motion by what happened in the distant past. A closed time loop where everything that was covered was done to protect the islands until the day Link would head for the key locations of the Dragon Drop, which includes Faron's Thunderhead and Dragonhead Sky Islands. After all, following the upheaval, only the sky with its soldier constructs and ranger constructs were safe, not even the Zonai's own spirit temple in the depths. And just like that, we might have solved the true origin of the Zonai, the secret stones, and what happened to their structures after the last of them, at least in Hyrule, were gone. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press that notification bell to make this video more visible, and do not miss any future Tears of the Kingdom secrets, theory and lore videos. Last but not least, a big thanks to you for watching until the end, and to all our patreon.com/CommonRealm patrons. In particular, to our raw producer, Charles Shash. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.